Hello, and thank you for joining me for a second Data Analysis Bootcamp class. I wanted to quickly recap our mnemonics from the last class to reinforce what we had learned the last time. So remember, we talked about our data analyst friend, and really his job as a data analyst, well, to really summarize, there's so much information out there in the world, and his job is really to refine down that information, to refine down the data of the company into more manageable, useful insights instead of just clutter of information. He's really trying to organize it, refine it, and turn it into those useful bite-sized insights that can support decision making with his business partners. We talked about our really smart friend who was wearing the pattern suit, and he was wearing that pattern suit to represent and help us remember that we really want to understand patterns and trends of our industry, of our business, of maybe the economy as a whole. Okay. And as we were looking at him, there's all this data floating around. He was going to use all of that data to make data-driven decisions. When we looked at him again, he was holding a big bag of money, and he let us know that he got that big bag of money from discovering opportunities outside of his business that he was able to identify and become very profitable by doing so. He also had those really big, ridiculous glasses on, if you remember. And those really big glasses that he was wearing was to help him look internally, introspectively, kind of looking down to see if he could kind of use his X-ray glasses to find inefficiencies, look for ways to optimize his business, find ways to really remove those bottlenecks, and really maybe again we talked about maybe looking for new technology to help make the operations more efficient. Okay. And we also the weirdest thing that we talked about, and the weirdest thing in this case is a rabbit in a spacesuit. So we talked about if we wanted to understand why that rabbit is wearing a spacesuit, we'd start with this theory. Why could he be wearing a spacesuit? Oh, he's going to go to the moon. We wanted to start looking at direct our analysis to start looking for that spaceship if he'd gone to the moon. Okay, so we wanted to do that. We also want to understand, really start to understand the anomaly of the rabbit wearing the spacesuit. Not just, that spacesuit, we want to understand why on a deeper level, understanding why he could be wearing that spacesuit, right? And just like identify anomalies in the business, we want to understand really why they're occurring so that we can better prepare ourselves for the good and bad anomalies because both can carry risks towards our business. And then we wanted to make sure that we evaluate our decisions, right? We want to evaluate, okay, well, if the rabbit wants to go to the moon, maybe he's wearing a spacesuit, okay, one step in the right direction versus spacesuit. Oh, there's no spaceship around. Is he really moving in the long-term direction that he wants to go towards, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to evaluate the here and now, okay? And then we want to evaluate the longer term strategy, or really moving forward to that longer term goal towards our business. We also talked about the sampling process. Very, very important and fundamental in data science and data analysis. And we'll get to hacker statistics eventually in later classes that really help cover this concept in a lot more detail. Okay. So we talked about the different types of samples that we can take: multi-cluster, simple random sample, multi-stage clustering. And we do all of them because cost versus benefit. Some of them are much cheaper to get, but ideally we'd like to sample everyone in the population, but we can't sample, that's not usually possible. So we decide on a way that's reducing the bias that we'll see. We're trying to get a sample that represents the population while still a kind of cost-effective way to do so. We talked about the pandas in the environment, right? We're standing outside of the zoo, the pandas environment, and we saw all those pandas raining from the sky, filled up the pandas environment. It's important to remember that that's still just a sample. So we'll really learn to take to heart as we go through our classes is this, that we're always dealing with a sample, and that will affect the robustness of the answers that we find. We briefly touched on what a data frame is, or data matrix, and that's really when we turn information into data, when we give it that square shape, that structure, and it provides structure to our information, it turns it into data, just like our data here is providing structure to our panda. We touched on different data types. In a broad category, there's numerical and there's categorical. We talked about numerical having two subcategories, integers and floats, whole numbers and decimal place numbers. And then categories being ordered and unordered. And that will have a very large effect on how we analyze those categories, even leading into machine learning, how we would pre-process them. So it's really important to understand what type of category we have. And we'll cover more of this in the third class, but we briefly touched on, we want to understand the relationships, right? And as you can see here, there's lots of relationships in our data that we could understand, and it's likely very time consuming to understand everyone. So we want to kind of have our theory, we want to stay focused on what is our goal of this analysis and which relationships pertain to that goal, okay? What are we really trying to understand? So, and focusing on understanding the relationships. Okay, I'll see you in the next video to get started this class.